Organic social media walks so paid can run, if that makes sense.
That's a good analogy.
Right? And then you're burning money. And how do you know what is going to convert if you have not tested anything before? So that's what organic social media does. And that is my forte.
All right, we're back with another interview from Ari at Solutions 8, actually. So we're kind of going through, we had Yvonne on last week, now we're having Ari on. And I think it's cool to kind of hear more of the, I guess, inner workings of Solutions 8, because a lot of people didn't really know too much about all the faces that made Solutions 8, and how Ari was secretly Kasim in some scenarios. And so she has a lot of experience in social media. And so just wanted to kind of hear more about where you're at now, kind of what you're doing, and yeah, who you are, pretty much, to everyone that doesn't know who you are.
Hey, Kaden, thank you so much for having me on. It's just fantastic reconnecting, and Solutions 8 brought a lot of great things for all of us who were a part of it. I think it was just a great place to grow and learn and connect with fantastic professionals like yourself. And then for me, it was a great insight to Google Ads, because I didn't know anything. I still don't, but I can understand a little bit more of it thanks to you and John and Kasim and Colby and Osama, and just like so many bright brains over there. And I could, just learn from you. So right now I am not in Solutions 8 anymore. A lot of us parted away for different reasons and different circumstances. But I will always be thankful for the opportunity that Kasim gave me to bring me on to the team. I was initially hired as a technical writer because of my communication skills. So they needed somebody to document all of John Moran's strategies.
Yeah.
And that was me, right? It's like,
Oh,
okay,
God.
so you're a communication expert. You're currently a middle school teacher. Why don't you bring your skills into digital marketing and then just drink from the fire hose and then try to organize everything that John says at that speed. If anybody knows John, you know what challenge that is.
I'm still trying to do that.
And back then we didn't have ChatGPT or any other like Fathom or any note taker that we could use. That would be super useful. Right now, we have all of these tools that summarize the main idea and the key points and everything. Back then, we only had a transcriber and that was it. So sometimes I would use the transcript, or some other times, most of the time, I would just do it by hand, and I would organize everything inside of the knowledge base that I designed and then inherited into Glenn Wilson's. And he did it wonderful with it. But then all of that strategy and all that knowledge was just being held inside. And Kasim said, hey, if we're already documenting that, why don't you start putting it on social media? So I did, and he gave me the keys to his X account. Back then it was Twitter, and I started posting bits here and there. And then I said, "Hey, would you be comfortable giving me the keys to your LinkedIn as well?" And I grew it. And I think nobody noticed that it was not him, it was me for so many years. And honestly, I didn't want to just pull up the curtain and say, hey, it's me, it's not Kasim. And anything that would get to him would go through me. So it's a role that requires a lot of trust and really high work ethics, because you are representing somebody online, and that is very delicate. Whatever you say can be portrayed as them or be taken in a positive or a negative way. So you have to be very, very careful. Understand who your client is, what they stand for, what are their values, and what is their voice, so you can turn into them. So that's what I did. And then from there, we took it to the sky, and everybody started, getting more familiar with Kasim, because he's always been this fantastic thought leader in the digital marketing realm. But he was not so comfortable being online, and I took it. So from there, I also started working on Solutions 8 social media, and kind of did a crossover from there until I was only on Solutions 8, and Kasim left Solutions 8. And then the company that was acquired decided, just to let me go, along with 10 other fantastic people at the beginning of this 2025. And since then, not much has been done because from what I understand, the current view is not to post a lot.
Really?
I keep telling everyone, like, the way you show on social media is the best way to advertise yourself for free, quote unquote, because of course, our professionals like myself and so many other agencies or freelancers that provide these services. And of course, you have to pay them because they're the experts. But then it's a free way that people are just learning about you. You're educating them, you're entertaining them, and you're in front of them all the time for free. So you're warming them for whenever they're ready to make that purchase, to take that click, to make that next step. Then they're ready to hear about a sales proposition, not just come in as a nobody out of the street, knock on their door and say, hey, would you like to buy this? Nobody likes that, right?
It's too fast and there's no conversation back and forth.
Yeah. And currently, I am super thrilled that I joined Foundation Marketing. This is a Canadian marketing agency that has global clients. And I am there as a senior social media specialist. And I'm loving the team over there as well. They're fantastic. They're this amazing group of people, super knowledgeable, fun, smart, dynamic. And there's just so much to learn from everyone over there. That too. And I had my digital marketing, my social media agency for a couple of years as well, doing my freelancing side, learning a lot from building my own client list and building my team, training them. And that has been one of the most rewarding experiences ever, just handpicking them, training them. And I'm super thankful for that experience. But 2025 came in with a very different perspective and plans for me, and they were all torn apart, and now I'm rebuilding them. So I'm super thankful for the place where I am at this point of 2025.
Yeah, well, it's crazy because I don't think people realize you, along with the other team that was editing videos and posting on the page, were essentially the full funnel of how Solutions 8 was getting clients. And I remember I would take the sales calls and it would literally just be clients are ready to go. They already know the narrative of what we're pushing in terms of how we do things. It's so much better than that of going down. And I went down the rabbit hole of trying to do cold outreach and cold DMs and all of that. And it's there's so much effort that goes into sales to follow up again. And you're not really building anything. You're just more so cycling people in as much as possible. And you still have to do that same workload. Whereas in social media, you could post once a day and it'll go from, 1 viewer to 100,000 viewers. And you're still doing that same cycle. You're just getting more sophisticated on how you look at things like analytics. So it's crazy that, however, you are part of the reason why Solutions 8 grew in terms of the funnel, and everyone should be looking at social media this way.
Absolutely.
Just because it's so much, it's free in a sense. Obviously you have to get content and, have people working on it. But long-term branding has been extremely valuable. So that's why I've leaned more into it. And I think it's valuable to, have you on here because you can kind of give some actionable insights that you've had on working with Solutions 8 and actually growing that brand. So
absolutely,
I'm sure people are aware of. So.
Okay, Kaden. So what do you do if anybody recommends a new restaurant in town? Hey, have you gone here? Have you tried?
Oh, you got to Google it on Maps.
Okay. So if you Google it, what are the most frequent places that get suggested on the first page usually?
I mean, there's typically what's nearest to you, but reviews, what people say about it, how responsive the brand is, the GMB essentially. Social media is also on there as well too, depending on, especially with the new chat GPT, social media is becoming more and more prominent. So it's very early stages, but yeah.
Exactly. So if a lot of small businesses, they don't have the money to put up a website, right? Or do a GBP, as you were saying as well. So what do? They just go on social media and that's it. Sometimes that's enough. If it's a small business, they can just do with social media, have the social proof up there in the channel of their choice. Typically, if they're selling something, it should be Instagram and or Facebook, depending on what, who is the audience. But at least me as a consumer, if somebody recommends something, I just go straight to social media. If they're there and they look good and they look legit with real pictures, not just stock pictures. For example, me as a mom, they always, moms are always recommending other places and so on. So number one, I go on like the mom group chats on or groups on Facebook, and then the other one is on Instagram, and I always look at certain things to make sure that that place is legit. If they have stock images, let's say a school has stock images, no. If a business doesn't have real pictures of their product, their place, just don't take it seriously. Just scroll over.
You can't trust them. Yeah, you don't really. You want to get more information, you're not getting more information.
Yes. Yeah. So social media is a great point for social proof and a way to attract your potential customers. Even if you don't have a website, that could be okay. It can be just a business page on Facebook, or it can be an Instagram account as well. And that can be enough sometimes, instead of having the whole thing, a big budget or something. It can be just yourself posting on a regular basis, experiences behind the scenes about your product and all that. And then just educate and entertain, like I was saying, entertain and educate your audience so they know who you are. And whenever they're ready to make that purchase, they already know who to go to, because you will be on the top of mind.
Gotcha. So I guess, and this kind of goes into back to Solutions 8. So like, what would you say would be kind of like the number one thing you learned from Solutions 8 that related to like all the channels? Like, because I know that Solutions 8 were heavy into YouTube. So like, what was kind of the relationship of that with all the other channels, I guess would be another question.
Well, let's say that the strategy started on YouTube, and from there it led out into all of the channels. Before I started, we didn't have a heavy presence 3 years ago on all the channels. And I pushed really hard to make this content distribution really strong and aggressive on all of the channels. So at some point, especially with Kasim, I was posting up to 5 posts per day, Monday to Friday. That's a lot of content.
Wait, on each channel? Like,
yeah.
Jeez.
That's a lot. I know. It's a whole lot of content. So imagine it's like 20 posts per week, right? No, 25 posts per week.
5 channels,
that's a lot, right? And then everything would go, no, I'm talking like every single post would go on every channel, but it's not posting once a day. It's posting 5 times a day, every post on different channels. So we would go on YouTube Shorts, LinkedIn, X, Instagram, and Facebook, TikTok as well. So 6 channels, every single post. So we had presence all over, and whenever you Google it, you'll get something. So it's just very aggressive, saying we are going to be on every single channel at all times. Whenever you Google something related to us, any keywords, any hashtag that is relevant. For example, I used digital marketing. That was my top performing hashtag, right? Because everything was about digital marketing. Number 2 was Google Ads, of course, because we were talking about Google Ads. And then also with Kasim, I did the content pillars. So he didn't have this strategy, and I identified the 3 content pillars, right? And then he was talking about either digital marketing and Google Ads, or personal development, because he's really, really big on that. And also entrepreneurship. So those were his 3 content pillars. And based on those, I would repurpose the content on what he posted or what we posted on YouTube. So it's a repurposing strategy, taking one long form video and then chopping it into short form video or reels for all the platforms that I mentioned before. And then turning that into single post, static post that can work as well, like a quote or a graphic or a diagram explaining something, or carousels when you are breaking down a concept or telling a story. That is really useful as well, because people like to scroll through, as long as it's not too text heavy or hard to read. Yeah. So
gotcha.
it's pretty much,
So just heavy posting. And then in terms of like, so what I got to ask, because Solutions 8 obviously is, or was international in terms of we just had people all over the place. And so how was it responding to like comments or DMs or, people that reach out that maybe you're like, okay, I don't want to like reply to you every single day. Like, how
Mm-hmm.
often were you on? Like, was it like one of those things to where when you weren't on, you're like, oh, I got to
Mm-hmm.
check it after hours? Like, what's sort of your, what was sort of like your cycle through the day and like posting, responding, all of that?
Well, for posting and scheduling, I use a fantastic tool that I swear by. I am not an affiliate, but I recommend it hands down. It's called Metricool, and it just handles all of your platforms in one same place. And I keep just telling everyone to go and use it or get it. There's a free version that you can use, and there's a paid version that can support up to 5 different brands. So 5 different accounts can be held in there. And then you can just connect all of your social media platforms. All of them are supported. You can get reporting, you can get a calendar, you can schedule. So that is super useful, just to do everything in one same place instead of going natively into each platform and logging into Instagram. And just imagine how crazy it would have been posting 5 times a day at different times per day from Monday to Friday on each one of the platforms, right? So it would be chaos, and nobody could just sustain that amount of work, manual work. So I was doing it everything on Metricool, and then Metricool also has this other side where you can do responding to DMs and to messages. Honestly, I prefer to do it directly in each one of the platforms, but they're just different approaches based on preference, honestly. But you can do it all on these social media management tools. There's just plenty of them. Just pick your top choice, and yeah,
pick
just
your
pick
favorite
one.
Just
Exactly.
mow it.
Yeah. And then number 2 is I was getting consumed by all of the notifications popping up all
Oh
the
my God.
time, all the
Yeah.
time. So Kasim would get probably at some point like 100 notifications per day. And that was just driving me nuts. So I had to shut down all the notifications on my phone. That was number 1 step for myself. And then number 2 was dedicating myself some time to do it. Right. So probably at the beginning of my workday, in the middle of my workday, and then at the end, just before checking out, make sure that everything was in order, everybody was tended to, because the way you show up on social media is really important. So this response time, it's not immediate because it's not something urgent, right? You're not an ER that somebody has to respond immediately, or you're not calling 911 that the response needs to be immediate. This is something that people needs to be tended to, cared for, listened, and so on. But then many of those messages were spam. So many of them, like, I kind of pick your brain and here's the pitch and, cold calling and all that. So
All the
that got
DMs.
really,
Yeah.
yes, you have to be very smart to identify which ones are legit, which ones are worthy. So sometimes he would get this invite for a podcast, right? And Kasim again was this big guy who would travel the world speaking on stages. Then he was running a family, running a business, having
Too
some
much.
health issues as well. It was a lot on his plate. I took a look at his calendar. He would live by his calendar and have everything scheduled in there, even the time where he would take his vitamins, literally. And then somebody cannot just come in and steal 30 minutes of his time. So
Yeah.
you have to be very mindful and keep this time of his, and make sure that if anybody is going in, they're worthy. So I had to do some research and pay. So who is this person? How many followers they have? Is this a legit podcast, or is this just a sales pitch and they're going to waste his time and so on? So yeah, that was part of what I
Being a
did.
mass filter.
Big filter. Yeah, it's like Gandalf, you should not pass.
Literally.
That was
Yeah.
me. Yeah. But for my own mental health, I had to shut down notifications, give myself specific times for checking it. Because if you're in social media as a user or as a manager, you know that you get addicted to it and you keep scrolling and going in every single time. How many views does it have? Do I have any likes? Are there any comments? Just, book yourself in your calendar 30 minutes or 15 minutes in certain blocks of the day, and then for the rest of the day just focus on other activities. And then from there you can go, okay, 15 minutes is not enough, maybe I need 30 at the beginning of the day, because I noticed that people from the other side of the world are responding a lot, and maybe that's building up, right? But it's always important just to respond to those and be following up, but not at the cost of your own mental health or sleep, because that happened as well.
Oh
I had
God.
my phone on, always charging there. So I had to switch over to night mode and have everything shut down. No
Yeah.
notifications. Yes.
Dangerous. I have that problem right now where it's like,
No, Kaden.
I need to just fully separate away, because I'll be like, oh yeah, I'll just do like one more thing, and then it's like, okay, no, there's like five more things. Okay, I need to like
Yeah.
not do this. But yeah, I think like that's a really important factor whenever it comes to this, because like you want to make sure you have the best responses. You want to make sure, especially if it's public, like you're representing someone else in your scenario, so it's even more stressful.
Yeah.
But you're responsible for that person's brand essentially, and so you want to be
Absolutely.
obviously fully clear-headed and not 11 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock at night in bed, like half awake. So
No.
it makes
Also,
total sense.
something else that was very useful, and I recommend this for any client and anybody who has a social media account and they need to respond quickly. Of course, we already said, set your calendar for a block of times in which you are going to respond. But then number two is just open a Google Doc, or I like spreadsheet, because you can filter them out easily instead of just a very long document. But even a notes on your phone would be enough. And write the most common answers that you reply. And that will give you a base just to copy and paste it and personalize it. Of course, don't give a robotic answer, because nobody likes chatbots, honestly. But I
Oh
mean,
my God, it's so prominent right now. It's terrible.
yeah. So now chatbots are a little bit friendlier because we're getting more used to AI and all that. But then back in the day, chatbots were super awful, and just this automated responses just break communication instead of opening a dialogue, right? So if you do have certain answers for common questions, just keep them in a document, very handy. Maybe that's part of the answer. So it will save you some time just selecting, copying, pasting, and personalizing it. Use first names always, and throw something in there that makes the other person listen to and connected to as well. So those, I would not call them FAQs. They're based on FAQs probably, but they're more
Somewhat,
like
yeah.
frequent responses that you would give your audience. Yeah, that is super useful and helps you a lot with time.
I'd say that's even good for client managers. Like people are talking to clients, and like you have at least like a handful of clients, somewhat, similar services. Then like, yeah, that was one thing I think we did at Solutions 8 early on. When I was a CM, I remember I got like a sheet of like basic responses, but it wasn't like, we're not talking like a full sheet of like 20 different responses. It was just like a handful of like 3 or 5. But I'm sure social media might be a little bit different than that. But yeah, I remember that was super, super helpful.
Yeah, and responding always with something that adds value. So if that question, it can be answered with another asset that you already have, like a blog entry, like a short video or a long form video, just come in like, hey, I found this for you. It's not only like thank you emoji, that's it. And then you kill all communication. You're providing value. And there's my new CEO says, just throw in the walk. This is like when you are eating at some place and you love that they give you this free walk. Is that just adding value, providing something extra that you didn't ask for, but it's lovely, and then you feel more engaged and thankful, and that place or that service stands out because they brought something else to the plate that you didn't ask for.
That's a really good that reminds me of a really, really good thing that I think we should cover, which is whenever someone, since there's multi-channels, one thing that I've been doing with social media, I don't know if you're doing this or you've done this or what your experience was, but I always found that like right now I'm using like LinkedIn and helping that to grow the YouTube channel, because YouTube has been more of like a more in-depth in like what we're doing. And so people ask a question on LinkedIn, I'm like, hey, check out this YouTube video. And there's a whole entire video on it. And then you move them into sort of the middle of funnel, I guess you can say, where you're at right now. And so it's one of those things to where I found that to be super useful and a way, way better, I guess, miniature call to action. versus not. And I think that's pretty much what you're saying with like just giving them more information and answering their questions in like a thoughtful way, I guess you could say.
Absolutely. Social media helps you, as you're experiencing firsthand, Kaden. Social media helps you with top of funnel. This is a top of funnel strategy that you're just in the face of awareness, showing yourself to the audience and trying to see if somebody resonates with you, and then they can like your content, subscribe, start following, and so on. If they have questions, then that moves them down the funnel, and then you can try other strategies to bring them down to the funnel to the point where they're ready to make that purchase, right? Yes, absolutely. So you're right. You're using it well.
I mean, from Solutions 8, I'm very similar, but I think one of the things that that helps, and this is what we do at Solutions 8, which you're obviously aware of, is we just give as much information as possible out.
Yes.
Just pushing as much like real data, real results.
Everything. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. But yes, providing that kind of value, as in not gatekeeping anything, is a strategy that works for many companies. Some others are very jealous of their content and they don't want to give out the secret sauce, and that's okay. If they don't feel comfortable with that, that's all right. But know that giving everything away is helpful as well, because then it's a very transparent strategy and communication with your audience, and then you're creating a lot of trust and they will still buy from you, whether it says followers or actual clients, because you're also building your voice, right? Not only for selling, but selling yourself as a voice, and a voice of authority, a thought leader in that area as yourself, Kaden. You started sometimes just popping into Solutions 8's videos here and there, a little bit more, until now you have your own agency, you have your own channel, and you are this thought leader in digital marketing, specifically in Google Ads. That's how you grew from it, just by popping in little by little and being comfortable in front of the camera and just leading it yourself.
Well, one thing you actually brought up a really good point, because you said the word like personalized. Like that's like the idea that the way that I've seen social media work really well is like whenever you personalize the brand as much as possible. And so like obviously like, we had Kasim and John that were sort of the face of the company, and so that was like super personal, and that worked really well. And then that was like the funnel. And then now you can say, okay, there's more of like spokespeople and things that go more into like the brand feel. And so the goal, though, I feel like for all these D2C brands and e-commerce is, some of the founders might not want to be on camera, but I typically find that founders that are on camera and are personalizing the brand tend to do a lot better on social. And I don't know if you've seen that be the case or have any experience like that, but I think that would be a really important point to kind of push out.
Absolutely. This is something that I talk about all the time, just based on data, not feelings, no perceptions. This is based on raw data. People connect more with people than with brands. So whenever we had John or Kasim in front of the camera, just talking to the audience or talking to each other and so on, those contents were spiking. We went viral and so on. But then when we had something not branded, very corporate, very salesy, then people don't relate to it because they want to have this human connection as if they know them already, because you've watched so many videos and you've heard them so much for so much time that you already know who they are, and that resonates with you. You feel friendly with them. And if you just see a post that is very plain, very corporate, very well polished, very well written, but it doesn't have this personal touch, then you don't connect with it and people don't convert. In the end, it doesn't make the sale. So just be mindful of how personalized you want it to be. If by personalized we mean adding a logo and the colors and all that, of course it needs to be visually appealing and in line with the brand. But sometimes throwing that logo onto everything takes away from the authenticity of the connection of of something that it would feel more like a FaceTime call than something that has been produced and through so many hands. I tested that as well. So whenever I was doing something heavily branded for Kasim, it wouldn't work as much as if it were just him in front of the camera.
Interesting.
Yes. So personal brand is very important to develop as founders, CEOs, thought leader, like I was mentioning before. And it's important that all the companies take these people, their employees, and put them in front of the camera. Of course, the ones that are comfortable, because then their brand will grow through them. Because people connect with people, not necessarily with the company or with the brand.
It was an interesting podcast, but it was talking about how it's sort of like the death of brands, and like how brands are no longer like, it's not just about the logo. It's about like who is at the brand, who are the
Yeah.
people that are behind the scenes. And then
Mm-hmm.
like you were saying before we started recording, like people want more human connection. People want to have that feeling of like, I know this brand. This is like a local brand, when in reality it's you maybe, 1,000 miles away. You can still make it feel local. Which is really important. And so I think that makes total sense. So that's a good nugget, I guess, to say, is try to make things as, even if they're cheesy, that's fine. Make them just feel authentic. So that makes things a little bit more fun.
Yeah, especially at the beginning, you feel really cringy about being in front of a camera and recording yourself and hearing yourself over and over. Like, oh my God, do I really look like that? Do I sound like that? And some people are more resilient to that than others. And some are like, I don't want to be in camera at all. And that's fine. Just find someone at your company that is comfortable and give it a face. Give your company a face, and then you'll bring success to your strategy, because then the audience will connect with them. All of these content that we're seeing right now is employee generated content that is behind the scenes, and this experience of being part of that company. Not only UCG, that is, all of this content created by micro influencers, and how do I use it at home and all that. It's the equivalent, but having the experience of being part of a company, or receiving a service, or a way of doing testimonials, but in a more casual way, just showing how proud you are to be part of that, and how empowered you are by working at that company. And that's something that John and Kasim always encouraged.
Yeah, no, they were great at bringing, like, for example, me on, or someone else on, that would sort of give like behind the scenes, sort of what's going on behind the company, and be like, hey, this is someone we helped train, kind of thing. So yeah, it was always kind of cool being part of that. But I do think, and that's kind of nice, because it works both as like a middle of funnel and a top of funnel, like you were saying, on like bringing out more personalization, like UGC type of content. But the thing that I'm also curious about, and one of the things that I saw as well at Solutions 8, was sort of how ads impacted the overall flow of traffic. And like, I know that we were pushing YouTube ads for a really long time, because YouTube was, our bread and butter when it came to, educating people, getting the brand messages across, because a lot of these concepts are, you can't just write something out and like have it tell you the full story. It's more of just like, here's like a quick, super fast summary that kind of covers most of it. But here's the video where John talks for like, an hour on the topic. And so how
it's just leaving like breadcrumbs so they can follow into the big one, right? It's just luring people in, because it's just so big of a concept that you cannot cut it. Imagine just editing those short videos. I was responsible for that. It was a pain. It was just like, where should I cut it? You got to be very mindful, and again, learn what your client is talking about, so you can make those cuts.
Yeah, no, it's super, super difficult. So I think in terms of ads, what were something that you saw, or what sort of the impact you saw whenever we started running ads? Did you get people that were maybe like newer to like the brand and didn't know much about it, like more like simple questions that were kind of like, you should know this if you're following us, kind of thing? Or was it just one of those things where you just saw traffic just spike up, and that was just part of the flow of, the regular business, I guess you could say, or something else?
Well, ads were ran separately, and the YouTube manager was in charge of all of YouTube, right? But they didn't touch, like, they don't do, at least as Solutions 8, there was no crossover strategy between organic and paid. And I was not in charge of YouTube either. But what I saw was that some of the shorts, again, that performed the best were client facing or people facing, right? Face to face, very authentic, whether they were paid or organic. And the best performing ads, those were Kasim's, and these were super casual, him walking down the street, just recording himself with his super long selfie stick that he has his hand and arm as a
Basketball player.
6'2".
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So it was just very raw and authentic what converted again. Even if it was an ad. Yeah, that's what converted. But definitely, I don't think that there are stupid questions, even if it seems very obvious. If it's bringing people into the funnel, that's okay. You got to be super gentle all the time. Be very nice and polite and say, hey, maybe you're new to our channel. Welcome. This is the first time that you've seen us. Here's more information. Here's how we're providing value. Educate yourself a little bit more, even if it sounds very silly for people like yourself that is very knowledgeable on Google Ads. Then I may not know the answer, but I know that there's a video that responds to that question. So let me just add one and just give it to them. So something like that, I would say. Just definitely ads help. And organic goes hand in hand with paid. If you want a good digital marketing strategy, you cannot have them separately. You cannot think of them as two separate entities. You need to bring these two strategies together to work together. So social media, organic social media walks, so paid can run, if that makes sense.
That's a good analogy.
Right?
Yeah, because paid just burns
baseline
through people like so fast. So
yeah. And then you're burning money. And how do you know what is going to convert if you have not tested anything before? So that's what organic social media does. And that is my forte. And that's what I come in, right? So let me just first, it comes in stages. So first you have to be listening to your audience. What are they asking? What are they interested on? What are their pain points? What are their questions? And based on that, you go to the creator, in this case was the founder, and I would pitch him, these are some questions, or yourself, like, hey, Kaden, you have time to answer this. Maybe you would shoot a short video and then we would post it and then go back to the person who asked that question and say, hey, Kaden just answered this. Here you go. And then you feed that. And then it's a never ending or evergreen loop where you are feeding content and creating content based on what they want to know. That's what the Q&As were so fantastic. The live Q&As that we had on Fridays, because people would be answering questions and then they would have more questions and not all of them would go answered. And then we would have talking points for the future sessions or internal trainings and so on. So listening to your audience, learning what they want to hear, understanding what are their pain points, based on that, creating content, then taking that long form content, distributing it into all of the channels and cutting them into short form videos, graphics, carousels, distributing all across. Again, listening to how those perform, looking at the numbers, and then you go back to the paid strategist and say, hey, this one did really well. Why don't you put some money behind it? Instead of you paid testing everything and throwing money, just look at this one. This performed really well. Put some money behind it and it will keep turning, right? And then it's evergreen. It will bring more people back into organic and you can keep testing and so on. So it's a free way of testing before going into paid.
Yeah, I think I completely would recommend that to anyone that's newer in the space and doesn't have the ability to burn like thousands of dollars on ads. You'll learn with ads, you'll learn faster, but you're sacrificing all of this ad spend. Whereas, if you have time and you have the, manpower to essentially go through and start creating all this creative to push into social, then it makes so much more sense to do that first. And then when you have thousands of dollars of excess from your evergreen that you've pretty much built, push that on paid. So I think it was Kasim or John that said it's just like putting like more gasoline on the fire.
I think both of them probably.
Yeah, it's like what ads are at the end of the day. Like, you can't just pour gasoline on a fire that's not burning. It's not going to light. So you have to make sure that you have your business actually matching the right user and you have the right messaging that goes across, which social is provides for that. So I think that's super important. I think so that was actually one of my other questions, which you answered, which was sort of how does the brand messaging and the paid sort of have a relationship? So that's really good. Good answer.
I wanted to also add that I've seen so many companies not having this alignment. and having separate strategies for organic and then separately for paid. And as a user, I've received some of the ads that somebody else was designing. And I'm like, dude, that's not my design. That doesn't look like the brand. And if you go on the feed, let's say Instagram, right? You go on the Instagram feed, that doesn't look anything like the ad. And those two should be aligned. These should look like they're coming from the same place. Of course, they can be slightly different, personalized, maybe, and not every graphic is identical to the next one, but they have a common thread and they have these guidelines that they should be following visually at least. And then on the right, the written part as well, the copy that comes with it and so on. But then you see them so frequently standing alone, like two separate entities, and you
two
say
different brands.
Yeah, like who are these two brands, because I don't know them. So I think that is one of the most common mistakes that companies make, and I strongly suggest don't do that. Just sit down, your organic and your paid people, just sit them together, have them talk, design a strategy together, because then this one will keep burning money and this one will keep posting things and having all the data and doing nothing, right? So you're leaving a lot of money on the table if you're doing it separately. Just be smart and have these conversations and have them have conversations.
Yeah, no, efficiency, that's kind of the biggest thing with it. And like, yeah, like it's always one of those things too, because like you kind of gotta play the fine line of like, you don't want to be like on the way creative side where it's just like do whatever you want, just do whatever like type of branding you want. But you also don't want to be too far on the data side where you're like, okay, only look at the data and don't try anything new. Or it's like you have to kind of play both to better understand exactly what's happening. And I think social media is like a perfect place for going a little crazy with it versus ads. So obviously you're a really massive brand. You want to get your messaging and data because you're just buying data at the end of the day. So
yeah,
extremely important. But yeah, I think that gave me a lot of new things to test, a lot of new things to kind of think about when it comes to how I run, my social media. So thank you for that. And for everyone else too, that is probably watching this and thinking like, I want to go on YouTube now, or I want to go on Instagram, or, whatever channel is out there. I think one last question, because I know this will probably come up.
Yeah.
What channels have you seen work the best? I know it's like a super hard question to answer, but like, what's kind of like the channels that you've seen work really well for most of the brands that are, I guess, more in this scenario, like personal brands?
Okay, that's a tricky question because as we say on digital marketing, it depends, right?
Yeah.
That's the favorite answer for everything. It depends. So the context means a lot. If you are a B2C and you're selling a product, then the best place to be would be Instagram, because the majority of your audience is there. You have very young people, very young being maybe late teens, until like probably 40 something. So you have that gap of people in there. Then you also have Facebook, but then Facebook is for like another generation, millennials and up. The younger generations are not there, and it works well. But if your audience is there, you have to be there. So it depends on where your audience is hanging out. That's where you want to be. Instagram would be definitely a great place to be in general terms for B2C. If you're selling a product and you want to address your consumer directly and you're a company that is selling something, then definitely yes. Instagram is great for building a casual side of your persona as a personal brand. That is great because then you got to share your stories, like, hey, I had lunch here, or I went to this place and I did this and that. So you get to share all of these little things of your daily life in a visual way, very relaxed and very casual. So for CEOs or thought leaders to have that side on Instagram is very enriching, because then you get to see their personal side, not only the professional one. Of course, there's going to be some bleeding into it, right? Hey, I appeared on the stage, I'm here, whatever. That's great. But it's not being too heavy on the professional side. If you want to build your personal brand professionally, the place that you have to be, yes is LinkedIn. So LinkedIn also works really well for companies, because then you have the business the big business, the corporation, and then you have all of these professionals that they could either be your potential investors, your potential employees, future employees, or the other executives that can buy and make those decisions to become your clients as well
And
for
you could see
services.
too the people, which is nice. Yeah.
Exactly.
Sorry.
So you get to see the professional side of people as well, and what they stand by and what are they doing professionally. So, hey, I attended this seminar. I just got certified in this and that, or I am looking for, for a job, or I'm hiring. So all of this professional side of yourself, it gets to be over there. It's a safe space. There's hardly ever any shade thrown, over there. Like, I have not seen many discussions or bad things happening on LinkedIn as in other platforms.
Instagram, yeah, it's definitely a whole nother, yeah.
X, don't even get me started. It was like a fight rink over there, no gloves or anything. So no, it's completely opposite to X. So LinkedIn is the great place to grow your business and your professional side, your personal brand as a professional as well. And you have to be there, of course. Right nowadays, every single place that is hiring ask for your LinkedIn. They all do. It's like, yes, your resume, yes, your cover letter, but where's your LinkedIn? And I need to see who are you interacting. So recommendations over there are super valuable. The skills, you can even take some tests to certify yourself on X, Y, or Z knowledge. Like, hey, I'm excellent at Excel. Okay, take a test, prove it, and then it goes as a badge on your profile, and then people can come in and say that you are certified to do that.
It's like
and
a
it's
mini
a great way to
personalized brand
connect.
if you're not ready to start a business, but like a great like starting point regardless.
Yes.
Because then you get, like you said, all the certifications. So yeah, didn't mean to interrupt, but yeah, I just wanted to point that out because that's literally what I did starting out and then moving more into like building the personal brand. So that's from like the ground up, and you're getting value out of it.
Yes, if you're a freelancer or an individual that is looking for clients and wants to build their personal brand professionally, you need to be on LinkedIn and develop your profile and share valuable content over there. Think about educating your audience all the time, and always keep in mind, going back to what we were saying before about like the silly questions, that piece of content may be the first interaction that someone has with you, and that's the first time that they see you. So they need to understand very clearly what you stand for, what are you selling, quote unquote, right? Like, what is your product, what are your ideas, who you are, who is your business, and what are you selling. So it's very important to keep this in mind every time you post something online. Like, can this post stand alone? Yes, then it's valuable. If it needs more context, then you don't post it because people will not understand it. Of course, if they want to go down the rabbit hole, they will continue consuming and go for the long form content, as we were saying on YouTube. But then every post needs to be standing on its own. So it's enough that the person who is watching it for the first time can understand who you are, what your business is, and what are you selling.
No, it makes total sense. I love it. I think that pretty much sums up majority of the questions I had in terms of social media and how we kind of, did at Solutions 8, because I was always curious on that. Because it's proven, it's worked, and sold, made money, do it again. And so literally. So I don't know if there's any final remarks you want to add before we hop off here, but I'll leave that open to you real quick.
Yeah. Don't take social media lightly. Take it very seriously. It's a big part of a marketing strategy nowadays. If you want to have an online business or an online reputation, you need to take it seriously on social media. Start testing, feel comfortable with it, record yourself, post something and then delete it. Just test it out and grow your trust and your confidence, because only then your business will grow.